Well, happy Red Friday. I I don't really observe Black Friday. Don't do a whole lot of shopping on this day. It's a little too crazy out there for me, but I'm always going to wear my red on Friday, baby.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, to be honest with you. I woke up ready to get after it around the house, but so I picked out, one of the old retro hoodies I got here. I probably had this bad boy in high school, man. The old Excelsior Springs Tigers
I knew
football
that
hoodie
thing
here.
looked familiar to me. That
Yeah, so
looks
yeah,
like a
Red
long lost
Friday.
friend.
Yeah, this thing still feels the same it did senior year. So yeah, Red Friday, Thanksgiving edition, Black Friday edition, got some football going on today. Crazy thing to talk about with the NFL and football, Black Friday football today. I saw maybe a
Weird.
conspiracy theory, or I don't know if this is actually true, that Amazon wanted the game today to try to increase the amount of people who are buying stuff on Amazon instead of going out and shopping today. So that would be interesting to see if
Mm.
that was a philosophy. Because if so, I mean, out of this world thought there or planning, trying to make that thing happen. So, pretty interesting deal there.
Well, and vice versa too. Anyone shopping on Amazon's going to be like, "Oh, there's a football game on," and flip over to the Prime Video app and check that out over
Yeah,
there. So it's like there's a tactic to it for sure.
yeah, 100%. But yeah, we got a big game this weekend. It's Raider week. It's gonna be an exciting one. I'm looking forward to the game
Raiders.
Sunday. So yeah, give us your best one. I know you do that well, Dan. Come on, give us your best one.
I'm a little nasally. I got a cold, but I'll rip it. The Raiders.
Oh, I love it. I
It
love
might
it.
be serving me better, man. What do you got? Let me hear it.
The Raider Week.
No, that's awesome. So, Raider week, baby. It's your
Yep.
favorite week to hate on your favorite team to hate. So, a lot of Raiders game in store. I'm glad. Honestly, it was so nice getting back into Arrowhead, but the last time we were in Arrowhead, it was like 70 degrees and sunny. So
Yeah.
I'm just not prepared to take on another game in the elements. I think we're getting about highs of 20 or 30 this weekend here in Kansas City. Maybe we break 40 here and there, but not 100% prepared to be back out in Arrowhead. Let me at least get my normal breathing and congestion back, and then we can have ourselves a home game against the Bills. Is that fair? Is that a fair ask?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair ask. And we got a couple weeks here to prepare, or about a week now to prepare for, or a couple weeks actually, yeah, to prepare for the Bills when they come to town. So it feels like every time we play the Bills, it's cold as shit though. So yeah, I mean, we
Or
got some
pouring
time.
rain?
Yeah, or snowing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just part of the game with the Bills. But looking forward to the this weekend against the Raiders, bumping into some Chiefs news here as the week has progressed since we talked to you guys last. We're going to bring this one in with Better Homes and Garden, specifically my wife, Katie Lawrence, who is a realtor with Better Homes and Garden. She is serving the whole Kansas City, Missouri metro area. If you're looking to buy, sell, build a home, she's going to be the person that's going to take care of you in the whole metro area. She serves, anybody that's looking for their first home, or you're looking for investment properties, or whatever you're looking for. She's gonna be able to help you out. My wife, Katie Lawrence, 816-868-1920 is how you're gonna get a hold of her. Make the call. She's gonna take care of you. So, Dan, bring us in with some
Love
Chiefs
it.
news so far this week.
Love it. Let's talk one more thing from the Eagles game. This came out kind of late after we recorded it, and it's been making its way around social media, IG, Twitter. Someone must have caught this on a phone camera or something because the video is a little fuzzy, but it's Nick Sirianni walking out of the stadium, and he waits until he's fully under the cover of the tunnel before he decides to talk some shit. And he wants to say, "Do you hear that? That's right. Be quiet, Chiefs fans," or something to that effect. I
Yeah.
mean, the dude's definitely a passionate coach. He's fiery. He typically doesn't take the coward route and will yell right at the fans in their face. But, he definitely, chickened out on this one. that part of it aside, how do you feel about his, fiery passion and the way that he gets after the fans and talks smack to players and things like that? Is that something that you appreciate? And, put this in the frame of reference if he was coaching the Chiefs, right? And we're winning, we're rolling, we're getting things going. So it's not like, he's talking smack while we're losing. How do you feel about a coach behaving that way?
So I guess to your first question about like, how do I feel about a fiery coach with some enthusiasm? That's the kind of coach I want. So like a lot of people are comparing him to Dan Campbell this week. I think they're completely two separate coaches. They act completely different. I think Dan Campbell is absolutely a pretty in your face, very enthusiastic dude, but he's got more of a gentleman's approach to how he goes about that enthusiasm.
I like that.
And his is directed
Yeah.
towards his team, right? It's not external. So he's not like talking to people externally. Sirianni, I think there's a little bit of bias here. I felt like he was talking to me through that camera, when he was talking shit. So I the macho man in me is puffing my chest up like, what, screw you, Nick Sirianni. You know what I mean? But here's the bottom line: if we win the game, then he's not talking shit. So if we get
You
done,
earn the right to talk shit when you win.
Yeah, if we take care of business on the field, and he's walking in there quiet, and in all fairness, if he's walking in the locker room, there's probably 100 fans right there at the tunnel, all talking shit as they're walking in the locker room, regardless if we won or lost. So, it is what it is. I don't think Andy Reid's that guy. He's not going to do that. But
never.
Sirianni's, Sirianni's not our coach, so that's not a problem we have to worry about. But yeah, if you handle business on the field, you don't have to worry about shit like that.
No, I totally get it. I think I take issue with it because he waited until he was fully in the tunnel to say anything. He didn't really say it to Chiefs fans. He said it to a camera, right?
Sure.
So it's not like, he's saying anything to anyone directly. In my opinion, that's, put that fire out on the field. You guys just won. You feel that way. Say it while you're on the field. And, he seems like the kind of guy that would embrace the energy that I know Chiefs fans would give back to him. The, shut up, this or that, whatever they say back to something like that. He would get off on that kind of thing. So, I definitely agree with you on the enthusiasm part of it. The Dan Campbell comparison, I think, is off base as well. So I'm totally with you there. I love how you said gentleman approach, because I was like, I feel like the word class is kind of overused in a lot of those scenarios or situations, because that's the first word that comes up to me when I think of Dan Campbell. But gentleman is like such a better description.
Yeah. You could shake Dan Campbell's hand. He treats you just like he's known you for 10 years. I feel like, I don't know the guy. I feel like Nick Sirianni kind of may not get the same response out of Sirianni.
Yeah.
But Dan Campbell seems like a great guy. Somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, who would I root for? Who would I want to play for outside Andy Reid? And Dan Campbell was the absolute answer there.
Yeah. No, I love that answer. And that guy's incredible. I think a lot of people forget Sirianni was on the coaching staff for Todd Haley during those lean years in Kansas City. So I don't know if he's got a little resentment because of that too. You lose to that team in the Super Bowl as well. Obviously, we did not appreciate that era a whole lot. And so a lot of the players that were on those teams, coaches that were a part of those teams, they get a lot of flack too. So
yeah.
I'm sure he got a monkey off his back a little bit there too.
Yep, that's a good point.
Deshaun Jackson tweeted out something, and basically it was the MVS drop pass, and he goes, I would have caught that, or, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he's saying his hands would have been good enough and he needs a call. Obviously, Andy Reid drafted him. How would you feel about Deshaun Jackson coming back and joining the Chiefs at the ripe old age of 36? Is that where he's at these days?
Wow. I mean, that's actually a lot younger than I thought you were going to say. But I mean, typically you look in the past, you check out the history of the NFL. Even guys like Julio, you bring these older guys back in that even they could have been the best in the league at one point. If somebody says we're bringing in Calvin Johnson, that's a completely different story. I'm welcoming that in, arms wide open. But
Creed
typically, you
style,
bring these
baby.
older guys in. Yeah, yeah. You bring these older guys in, and they don't really make a huge impact, right? I think Julio's role in an offense at this point would be more of a, bring a guy off of somebody else that's running a route, right? He's not making the 80-yard bomb play anymore. So I'm not huge on bringing an old head in. I think I truly think with the team we have now, it's the team we roll with. We figure it out, and if it's not good enough, then you readjust and you identify what those are in March. I don't think going out and getting an old head is going to make us any better of a football team at this point.
I mean, I tend to lean with you there for sure, but I mean, Deshaun Jackson even played last year. He played 7 games with the Ravens last year. There's a couple other guys that are still free agents, right? Sammy Watkins spent some time in the league last year with a couple teams. Kenny Golladay, we're familiar with him. Kenny Golladay coming from the Giants, obviously not a great situation there. So it's interesting that no team has picked him up. I think it's maybe a work ethic thing. I don't know. Bryce, our producer, probably has a little more insight on that. And then Jarvis Landry, he's only 30, right? And there he is in the chat. I sure do. Certified bum. So Kenny Golladay, not Jarvis. Jarvis Landry, however, is an interesting name. He was beaten up a little bit last year, didn't get a whole lot of playing time because of it. He's only 30, right? Came in with the same draft class as Devontae Adams, Brandon Cooks, guys that are still making noise today. Mike Evans was in that draft class as well. All of those guys are still playing at a high level. Odell Beckham Jr. And, that would be an interesting guy to come in. It seems like we typically grab some veteran off of waivers or, whatever the situation is on these playoff runs. The most recent being, Melvin Ingram or Terrell Suggs. So that was on the defensive side of the ball, but it addressed a position of need when we did it. And it brought a veteran voice that was able to lead a young position group at the time. And so I think Jarvis Landry could be a good fit there because of what he's bringing. Now, is he just going to totally flip the script and all of a sudden we're going to start winning games and the drops aren't going to be the reason why we lose? That's not what I'm saying, but it definitely wouldn't hurt, in my opinion. I mean, we've got 7 receivers on the rosters, 6 or 7 at this point. I'm not sure what the status of Justin Ross is, but Jarvis Landry is a guy that I like over just about anyone not named Rashee Rice on our team right now.
Yeah, good point. I mean, 30 years old, it's almost worth a try. But on the back end of that, somebody's going to the practice squad, and who that is, I'm not sure what that name would be. Who's in the bottom 3 right now for the Chiefs? But I'm not. Yeah, that's a good point. Jarvis Landry would be an interesting guy to see in that offense. I think he probably fits in pretty well. But that's a good point. Yeah, I can see that. I on the realistic side of things, I don't see that happening at all. And you probably agree with that one. Maybe not. But I don't see Brett Veach taking that angle there.
Just kick the tires, man. Bring him in for a workout. Yeah. Just do
that. Yeah. Not a bad idea.
Final thing on news before we get into the AFC landscape, because we're spending a lot of time here. Just wanted to highlight the John Madden patch. I don't know if you noticed that on the Thanksgiving games. How'd you feel about that? I thought that was pretty awesome.
Honestly, didn't even see it. Didn't realize. I didn't see it on the uniforms, and I didn't hear him talk about it. So you're gonna have to walk me through this one. I'm gonna have to look up a picture here.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I would love to see a coin version of this patch, because it looks like maybe it'd be the next $50 if we're talking U.S. currency, but. They basically put this John Madden side profile patch on everybody's jersey that played on Thanksgiving. Shout out to the Turducken. And I thought that was great. A great way to memorialize somebody who made such a huge impact on the NFL and the game of football itself. And, really, game wouldn't be what it is today without him because of his impact in pop culture and everything that he did, from the video game to his broadcasting career to his coaching career and beyond. So, loved that the NFL paid homage to such a great figure in football.
Yeah, I mean,
and we're playing the Rams, so it rings there too.
Yeah, 100%. If you look at the NFL as a whole, he's on the Mount Rushmore of the NFL. 100%, no doubt about it. He's on Mount Rushmore for the NFL as a whole. So,
Oh
rightfully
yeah.
so. Good to see. I just looked up a picture. They look pretty crisp. I like to get patches like that and kind of hold on to them. And if I get a jersey and kind of feel a little urge to throw something on there, I like to have those patches on deck. So that might be a good one to pick up. That's pretty cool.
Snag that thing.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Well, that's the news for this week, my man. We'll move it into the AFC landscape. This is brought to you by eCoffee, www.eeroastscoffee.com. KC Local Coffee Company. They do have a Rad Kingdom blend. They'll have some holiday blends coming out. They typically do every year. I haven't brushed up on what that looks like this year, but still got the espresso, plenty of coffee that you can choose from, different varieties. And I mean, they roast it to perfection. Bring those beans in here and distribute those wherever you need them. So it's fantastic what they're doing there. www.eeroastcoffee.com. Real quick look at some matchups this week for week 12. Jacksonville, Houston might be the biggest of the bunch as terms of AFC playoff standing potential, right? The Jaguars hold on to the 3 seed and the AFC South lead at 7-3. Texans right on their heels at 6-4. Could get to a position where they can move up a couple of seeding spots here.
Yep.
Buffalo makes their way to Philadelphia. Philly's playing really well right now. Buffalo outside looking in at 6-5. Miami just won today, so technically they're 8-3 and at the 2 seed. So the Bills have some catching up to do. Big challenge here. And then Baltimore, LA. We have to be kind of Chargers fans this week. We kind of need the Chargers
Yes.
to beat Baltimore so that we can take the lead on that seeding, assuming we beat the Raiders and take care of what we need to do, of course. But
Yep.
instead of having to wait for the bye to happen so that we get back to even footing in our number of games played, it would be a lot nicer to have that 1 game lead and then they hit the bye and it adds that cushion. So quick
Yes.
look at the AFC there. I mean, playoff picture is coming into view.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the Jacksonville and Houston game is going to be huge. Right now, Jags are sitting at 7-3, Texans 6-4. And so we can see that flip flop there for the division lead. And the Buffalo Philly game is an interesting one to see if Buffalo can run off what they did last week. And then Philly's got a tough stretch. Obviously, they had us last week where they beat Kansas City Chiefs. And then this week they're playing Buffalo. And then next week they got Dallas. So a pretty tough stretch for those guys. But
Whoa.
yeah, tough stretch. But Dallas can't beat anybody that's got a winning record. So Philly's probably all right there. So just to dance along some teams that are kind of sitting on the outside looking in, you got Bills who are 6-5 looking for another dub. Colts who are 5-5, Broncos 5-5, Bengals 5-5, and then 12-13 right here. We got Raiders at 5-6, Chargers at 4-6. So kind of AFC bringing up the tail end right there of the AFC there. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Got about a month and a half of football left here, and it's going to be a tight race in the AFC. As you can tell, it's going to be, as we talked about, Houston, Jacksonville. If that flip flops there for seeding, we can see the Dolphins move up there and up to the 3, and then Houston up to the 4 if Houston can pull it off. So, going to be interesting. Going to be a lot of fun football there. And man, I'm fired up. I'm fired up for this weekend too, man. I love Raider Week. Love Raider Week.
Oh yeah. It's the best. It really is. Chargers, very winnable game against the Ravens. So hopefully they do us a favor. That would be pretty sweet. Let's talk Raider Week, man. I'm ready to get into this, dive into the meat and potatoes of the show here. Injury report kicks us off. So Chiefs injuries, they've already ruled out McCole Hardman and Jerick McKinnon. That's already been done. Not entirely sure the nature of Hardman's injury, but I did see McKinnon had a groin problem. So
Yep.
not what we want to see from McKinnon. This is about the time where he picks it up and we start getting him more involved in the offense. So him missing time here is not ideal. But we do have a chance to see Richie James get activated from the injured reserve. He led the league in one of those weird stats, expected pass catch rate last year. I'm honestly digging for anything that's going to give us hope that our receivers are going to start catching the ball in key situations. So with Richie James coming back, even if it means we get a 3rd and 9 conversion and it hits him in the hands and he secures the ball, I'll be satisfied with that.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, I'm on the same boat, man. If you're gonna be the captain, I'll ride that boat, man, for sure. I want to see things change there. As far as Jerick McKinnon, with him being out, I think it's a bigger impact to our run game than it is the pass game, really. So obviously he has a bigger impact when he's in the game with the pass game, but when you are limited down to just Isaiah Pacheco and CEH in the backfield, the pass game out of the backfield is essentially gone. Isaiah Pacheco can do the screen game, but he can't run routes quite like Jerick McKinnon can. So he gives us flexibility in the run game to where he can still run, but he's a dynamic back out of the backfield for passes to where it kind of puts defenses on edges there, trying to determine what that play call is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that one's going to have a little more impact than we think. It'd be exciting to see Richie James back, but big one to look at on the Raiders side is Max Crosby hasn't practiced all week. I haven't looked into that to see what that is or what the outlook is on that. So it's going to be interesting to see if a defensive player of the year potential is going to be able to play this weekend against the Chiefs, and that's a huge turn of events for us if he does not play. But I haven't seen anything expecting him not to play this weekend. Have you seen anything, Dan?
Well, there's something brand new that just came out like 30-40 minutes before we started recording the show here. He is officially listed as doubtful to play.
Woo!
So doubtful status does not really give you a whole lot of promise that he's going to end up playing this game. It is a knee-ish injury or issue for Max Crosby, very nondescript on the extent of the knee injury from what I'm seeing here, but listed as doubtful for the game, so I would not expect 98. Definitely a game wrecker type of player, defensive player of the year candidate, 100%. He's been all over the place this year.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot nicer not having him on the other side of the ball. I can tell you that much. Although, I do love watching him play. I hope he gets well soon and everything like that. But that's an advantage for the Chiefs that we need to take advantage of. A couple other defensive players on their report, too, have been limited throughout the week. Robert Spillane is a standout linebacker for that team that has been dealing with injuries. And then 3 members of their secondary, Trevon Merrick, Marcus Epps, and Jones, their corner, all 3 of them have been limited this week. So something to monitor kind of going. They have various injuries. At this point in the season, everybody's banged up, right? And so it could be a maintenance type of thing for them. I don't know what their game status is, questionable or otherwise, but definitely some defensive issues going to be hindering the Raiders a little bit. They might be a little slow, a little banged up in that game.
Absolutely. Might need some Sam Webb in their life, man. That'd be nice to see my man on the field there, back in the black and silver. But
they tend to throw him out there whenever they play the Chiefs, man. I'd love to see him.
Yeah.
See him get some playing time on that. I think he's number 26 now.
Yeah. I think that rings a bell too. So best bets, Dan. Let's burn through this and let's talk a little football after that. So looking into the weekend, over under sitting at 42.5. I kind of feel like that's a little low, man, to be honest with you. After, even though the Chiefs scored only 17 points in the game last week, it was still 17 points in the first half. So I think there's, a little bit higher of a ceiling there. And obviously the Raiders aren't a premier offensive threat in the league, especially against a defense like the Chiefs got. But 42.5 seems a little low for me.
You know what this tells me is it tells me that Vegas thinks this is a very lopsided game. When in low total games and you see a high spread like what we have, Chiefs are anywhere from 8.5 to 9-point favorites, depending on where you at. 9 points on DraftKings, 8.5 on FanDuel and some other places. So do your line shopping for where you're going to get your best value always and forever. But what this is telling me is they think we're going to win big and the other team isn't going to score a ton. So, Chiefs minus 9, that could end up being a 31 to, I guess 31's maybe a little high. 20, let's just say it's a 27-13 game, that's your under right there and your cover. So
Yeah, yeah.
it just tells me that Vegas isn't too confident in the Raiders. Maybe the Max Crosby injury is playing into this a little bit. Honestly, I think he's a good enough player to impact some Vegas spreads.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have an interim head coach. They have a rookie quarterback. A lot of things can go wrong for the Raiders in this game. They have a lot more variables, and obviously the Chiefs powerhouse coming into this. So I don't know. I like us to cover. Honestly, I do like the over in this game as well. They have Devontae Adams, they have Josh Jacobs, so I mean they have some weapons that can score some points. But I think this is a two possession kind of game.
Yeah, I don't with the way things have gone lately with the Kansas City offense, I don't like -9. I think this is probably one I would stay away from, but if I had to take something, I'm probably taking Vegas +9 just because of the offensive flaws we've seen lately. Now, the flex here is going to be if the defense can score. If the defense scores, I think it's a wash. We win by 13 or 13 points, or 14, whatever the score may be. But I think it's real. I think it's 7, maybe it's 9 points on the dot. If the defense or if the offense struggles a little bit here, but 42.5. That is just tough for me to take with the Chiefs offense right now. But I mean, it's almost like how do you not take the Chiefs offense with 42.5? So there's I got two little critters sitting on my shoulders right now. One's telling me take it. One's I got a big cat over here, and I got Dave Portnoy over here saying take the over. Yeah. But to jump into some props here, Dan. Anytime touchdowns, Travis Kelce is -30, 135. Pacheco sitting at -120. Devontae Adams at +200, and then Rashee Rice is at +210. I love all of
Those are
those.
all on DraftKings.
I love all of those. I mean, that's a hell of a parlay right there. I mean, that's something we should float over to Mr. Stratton himself and Mr. Sling Your Bets himself and see what he's got on this one because he'd be all over that.
Oh yeah. I like those plays too, honestly. I think my favorite one out of all of them is the Devontae Adams for +200.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy good odds
Yep.
for him. He's
Yep.
going to be the number one target in a lot of situations, and you know, playing the props. Rashee Rice also gets a lot of play in those little screen passes inside the 10. So
Yep.
hitting him underneath is doable for sure. Mahomes,
Yep.
2.5 passing touchdowns. If you take the over on that, you're at +160. So the under is definitely the more popular bet. Mahomes really hasn't eclipsed 2 passing touchdowns too often this year. I think maybe just one game with 3 passing touchdowns, maybe one more after that. But I like a bounce back game for the Chiefs offense. I think there's a lot to prove and play for in this game. It's a divisional game. We always play really well against the Raiders. I think if you
Yep.
look at the last 4 or 5 games against them, we're averaging in the upper 30s in points. Now, that is not this year's team,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
I think it's important to understand that for sure. But excuse me, in the red zone, we don't typically hand the ball off. We'll shovel pass, right? We'll shovel pass it to
Yep.
someone. We'll screen pass it to someone, and that just makes Mahomes' touchdown total look that much more appealing to me.
Yeah, I could see that, but the over sitting at 160. I think I'm sticking with the under there. Devontae Adams, the over under on 5.5 receptions, -115 going both ways, which is bullshit. Vegas, thank you. And over under is 62.5 yards. I like the over on both of those. Now to get
Me
into
too.
the backfield here on rushing yards, over under on Pacheco is 67.5. Remember, Jerick McKinnon is out right now, and Josh Jacobs sitting at 64.5. Love the over on that. And then Mahomes is sitting at 24.5. Love the over on Mahomes, 24.5. He's been shredding the ground game so far. So, Dan, if you had to kind of put together your perfect prop for this weekend, what is that?
So I did some research. I was looking at some different plays. This is the one I'm liking the most. So I told you already, I think the offense has a nice little bounce back. So all of my legs in this parlay are going to be related to the offense itself.
Okay.
Rashee Rice, his over-under total on receiving yards is 43.5 yards. I'm taking the over in that particular play. I think he gets around 50 or so to hit that comfortably. Pacheco at 50 yards. I'm taking the over there on just an alt rushing prop. Take the over on Pacheco's yards at 50. Take the over on Kelsey's receiving yards at 50. Take the over on Justin Watson receptions. His line is set at 1.5 receptions. I think he gets 2 to 3 catches in this game at least.
That's crazy.
We just saw him get 11 targets last week, so definitely going to get some play. You run all of those legs in a parlay, and your odds are sitting at 4-1 plus 400.
Beautiful.
So really big fan of that prop there, and we'll definitely be putting some money down on it for my Chiefs guys.
I like that, man. Plus 400. That's looking pretty good. And I like, even if the offense doesn't have a huge bounce back, I think these are pretty solid. These are pretty doable here. Rice 43 yards, Pacheco over 50, Travis Kelce over 50, Watson 1.5 receptions is wild. After the last couple weeks he's had on the offense, I think that's pretty low for him. But to jump into some stats here for the best bets here. Overs have hit 5 of the last 6 for the Raiders and the Chiefs matchups. And obviously, you just talked on that a little bit. Chiefs have hit 30s the last 3 or 4 games, so that's got a lot to contribute to that. The most recent was the under did hit, so that was the 5 before that where they were hitting the overs. Chiefs are 3-1 against the spread last 2 seasons against Vegas. Obviously, when you score somewhere in the 30s. It's tough for an opponent to stay anywhere close. And I'm not familiar where those spreads were sitting at, but I'm sure they were probably sitting at somewhere around 10, like they're sitting at right now. Obviously, last year the Chiefs were a little more dominant at this time of the year. I'm going into those games, but 3-2 against the spread against the Raiders on the road with Mahomes. Justin Watson's targets have increased for 4 games straight. So that goes back into your parlay there, Dan, where 4 consecutive weeks where Justin Watson has seen an increase in targets. And obviously last week we just talked on 11 last week. That's a big number, and it's going to be interesting to see if that goes up again. 11 targets is already a pretty significant number to see some touches in the game, but it'd be interesting if he's going to be the guy again, or is it going to be Travis Kelce, who we saw pretty emotional this week between his podcast, media outlets, and whatever it may be. He was pretty emotional about that loss, and I look for him to have a big comeback game. So,
no, absolutely, I agree with the Travis Kelce comeback, and if Watson gets 12 targets, then I'm definitely hitting that parlay. So, big fan of that. We'll take it into some actual game talk here. Moving away from the bets. Best of luck to you guys moving your way out to Kansas to place those bets. A lot of value here this weekend. So last win that the Raiders had over KC was on October 11th, 2020. That was when they made their victory lap around Arrowhead in the bus, and they just have not been able to get it done since. So Mahomes 9-1 against the Raiders in his career as the Chiefs starter. With a win, the Chiefs would hold a 6-1 AFC record, 3-1 divisional record, and would be in position to take the 1 seed, assuming, the Chargers take care of Baltimore. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait, get a win in week 13, while Baltimore's on a bye to move back into the 1 seed. So definitely need the help there with the Chargers, but a lot of benefit here with getting the win here. 6-1 at this point in the season against the AFC is huge for tiebreaker reasons. Yes. Obviously, the one head-to-head loss was to the Broncos, and they're sitting about 2 or 3 games back from us right now. I think it's 2 games, but a lot of benefit there with the W here. 6-1 by far is the top AFC record amongst any of the contenders. So. A lot of advantages are going to come with getting a win here, aside from just, putting the Raiders down again.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And like you said, man, we're getting down to crunch time. So it's now is the time where you gotta really, if you got problems, you got to fix them now. And then in late December, mid-December, you got to really finesse those fine details. But if the Raiders were to crawl into a win this weekend, I mean, it's going to be a tough battle for the Raiders if they want to try to get a dub. So how do they get that done against the Chiefs this weekend if they want to get a dub?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't want to say never anymore after what happened against the Broncos, but it was like a perfect storm against them, right? We had 5 turnovers. They started 3 of their scoring drives on our side of the 50. So that was a huge benefit for them. And we had some critical drops, including the game tying or game leading touchdown towards the back end of that game. So it had to be a perfect storm for the Broncos to take us down. I think it's going to be a similar situation for the Raiders where, they're going to have to generate some timely turnovers early in a possession so that they can get the ball in great field position. They're going to need Josh Jacobs to run the clock well and maintain possession of the ball, maintain control of the clock with a lead at that. And they have to keep the Chiefs under about 24 points. That's tends to be the threshold for when the Chiefs lose the most, is when we're under that point total. So if they're, generating pressure and getting Mahomes to turn the ball over and we're just not getting offense going, like if we only score in the first half and this second half scoreless streak continues, that could put them in a really great position to win this game. Now, again, I think it's going to have to be a perfect storm of all of these things, right? A bunch of turnovers, some sacks, control the clock, keep us under that certain threshold. To tell you the truth, with all of the defensive injuries going into this game and them likely not having Max Crosby on the field, I do not feel good about their chances at all. Trying to look at this as objectively as possible, of course, but as a Chiefs fan, I'm saying we're going to stomp them. As someone who's trying to analyze the game, I'm saying the chances are very low. Like, it's going to have to be a big cluster F of problems.
Yeah. No, understood. I think, but there is that potential, right? So that did happen against Denver, and all those things kind of came together for Denver. And not to discredit Denver at all, because they really strung a couple wins here together on the last few weeks. But it really does take a lot of those things to come together. And with the injuries thing, like you said, it makes it even that much more difficult. But for the Chiefs to win this game, I think keeping things simple is how we're gonna just move on to another week, right? So we don't need to come out and beat Vegas by 20 or 30 points. We just need to come out, play solid football, kind of use this game to establish the fundamentals, get back to the routine football that we need to play, and this is a perfect week for it. And we have to, a couple of those things are going to be protecting the football, protecting Pat Mahomes, and then eating up clock, utilizing Pacheco to eat up that clock. So, from some failures that we saw last week, like the turnovers in the red zone, those have to be diminished. And what we saw against the Broncos was, I think, 0-5, 0 out of 5 chances in the red zone is what we scored, or I might be off a little bit. And then the following week, it was like 3 of 3 in the red zone, or 4 of 4 in the red zone. And so I think we could see the similar play this week where we had issues in the red zone. And then we come out the next week, being this week, and really correct those issues and play solid football in the red zone. And as far as the defense goes, you have to play the sound football you've been playing this whole time, right? So you're playing a rookie quarterback. Chiefs have continuously over the years eaten up rookie quarterbacks, no matter how bad our defense has been in the past. They get after rookie quarterbacks. So I think the defense has to attack. Spags cannot lay off. He's got to send those blitz packages. We got to create turnovers and put offense in plus territory and really get some. The defense could play a huge part in our offense, getting the wheels turning. If they give Pat Mahomes the ball at the opposing 40-yard line and that offense gets onto the field, juiced up and fired up for that drive, that could change how they operate, how they go into that drive and just build momentum, man. Build momentum and keep building momentum week after week after week.
No, I'm totally with you. I think I'm pretty much at this point putting all my faith in the defense. They have carried us through a lot of these game situations, and play play defense like you're playing the Eagles against these guys, right? Give it your all. Make sure you don't overlook these guys or underestimate them. We're playing a divisional game, so I know that's going to fire them up a little bit more, right? I'm looking for, obviously our staple guys to make impacts, right? Chris Jones got to make an impact. Trent McDuffie, Snead, they've got to make an impact. But I want to see some Willie Gay, you know, fireworks. When Willie Gay gets involved and makes something happen, that's like those unexpected pieces, right? You're expecting Chris Jones to get a sack. You're expecting McDuffie and Snead to defend some passes. But when like Willie Gay gets a sack or generates a turnover, or George Karlaftis gets a sack or forces someone to throw it away, like, or bats a pass down at the line, those are those additional, it's like the gravy on top of our really good defense. So I'm loving that. The Mike Edwards plays that we've gotten throughout the year, like that's just gravy on top of it, baby. So I want to see some more of that. That's really going to help us elevate this. And I love what you said, right? You said our defense can be a key factor in getting our offense going. And I love that point. I think that's such a good point to bring up, because if we generate that turnover, get us into a scoring position, right? Not only are we getting a shorter field, which is ultimately the goal, shave some yards off. That's why we want to return the punt so far. But it's getting Mahomes in that offense more reps on the field, more opportunities to get into a rhythm, get into scoring rhythms, and build momentum throughout that game and roll that shit over into the next game. So I love that point. Because
agreed.
our defense has been really great. They haven't forced as many turnovers as I would have liked. We're forcing a lot of fumbles. We're not getting a lot of picks, but we're getting the punts and stuff like that, forcing 3 and outs. But I want to see some turnovers here to get us into position where we're not fielding a punt inside the 10 and calling a fair catch and having to drive 90 yards. Because I feel like that's what I keep seeing.
Yeah, that's a good point. This defense has been, has kind of stood on the pillar of, we are a bend don't break. You may get that 30-yard pass down the sideline, but we'll get to 3 and out after that, right? They don't quit after the big play or after a long drive. They don't give up. So that's kind of where we've seen us get pinned back inside the 20-10 and 5 and getting more reps. I didn't even think about that. That's a great point as well, and it's much needed, with the offense right now.
Absolutely. So that puts a stamp on it for Raider week. I'm real excited to get this game going. Watch it. I'm gonna make some chicken and dumpling soup and have that going for the game. Something nice and warm. Get us cozy here.
Nice. That sounds really good.
I do want to throw one question at you, because our schedule is coming to a close, right?
Yeah.
The games that we thought were going to be most important, I mean, the records are not that great for them, right? We're hosting Buffalo. We're hosting Cincinnati. They lost Joe Burrow. And then we have LA on the road week 18 when seeding might be pretty much wrapped up. I'd say those are the 3 most important games left on our schedule, the Eagles being the most important. If I were to ask you this question last week, what do you think is the most important, most impactful game left for the Chiefs?
I think big picture, like to your point earlier about winning AFC games, I think big picture, any AFC game is going to be crucial to continue that AFC record going down, in case there is a situation where we're tied for the 1 seed or even tied for a 2 or 3 seed. We want to have that lead in the AFC wins. But with what we have left, I think the most important singular game is the Bills, because we might have an opportunity at that point here in 3 weeks to stick a knife in the Bills and really, kind of maybe end the season for them at that point, or make it to where they have to win out the rest of the season to be able to, snag a 6 or a 7 seed, right? So I think that's a crucial opportunity, and it would benefit us for Josh Allen not to be in the playoffs, right? That's just another one of those legacy guys, tough guys that we have to play in the playoffs that we don't want to see, right? So we're already going to see that with Joe Burrow. If we could walk into the playoffs and no Joe Burrow, no Josh Allen, and that's going to increase our odds of going to another Super Bowl by that much. So I think one singular game, it's got to be the Bills. big picture, any AFC game has to be a dub.
No, I'm with you there. Potentially no Joe Burrow, no Josh Allen, no Justin Herbert in the playoffs is insanity to me. Like that's the field, that's the crop of quarterbacks that we, talked about the last couple years are always going to be that roadblock for Mahomes. So totally agree. The Bills definitely are the most talented team left on our schedule. And, they play the Eagles. The Eagles could beat them this week. They very well could beat them. That would put them in a position where they're 6-6. And if they leave the Arrowhead 6-7 with maybe a 4 to 5 game gap behind the Miami Dolphins, that rules out the division and it makes the wild card a very tough grab. Now, I will say the Bills get in as a 7 seed. That's not a 7 seed you're going to want to see as a 2 seed. So,
yeah.
It's going to be a road trip situation for them if they get in. But I like the pressure of us being that nail in their coffin potentially.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that hype going into the game if that's the case. But we got a few weeks out to see. But Chiefs fans, here we are, Red Friday. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, Dan. I'm sure you did. And it's great to see family. But here we are, Raider Week, one of the best weeks we have throughout the year. We got 2 of them every year. So it's good to enjoy. But Chiefs fans, Fastest 40 fans, thanks for tuning in. Dan, sign us off, brother.
All right. Appreciate y'all listening. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, YouTube. If you're listening on one of those platforms, you can always visit the other social media at the fastest_40 on IG and X. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe out there for Black Friday, and let's go Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs.
Peace.